Welcome to the very first episode of the Morrigan Death Ambassador. So, yes, this is my first episode. I am so freaking excited. And I am really excited to talk about death and, being a death ambassador. So, this platform is essentially going to be discussing things like self-empowerment and self-improvement through things like witchcraft and, involving nature in your life more often. This platform is going to dissect the intersection between science and spirituality. This platform will delve into folklore and true crime. This podcast and platform will empower those who are fighting battles every single day. This platform will be investigating mental health and psychology and neuroscience. This platform is also going to normalize death and to, make death such a less taboo topic. And so we, as Caitlin Dowdy, my hero, as we can have the good death, the right to die whenever the heck we want to. So, I'm dedicating this platform to giving a chance for people to fight for what they believe in. So, and I'll probably be judging people's home decor, and I will also probably be doing some chaos crafting because I love to do some cute little DIYs. So, my entire life has kind of been leading up to this moment, and I'm so freaking excited. Like, of course, I don't know, it kind of makes sense as a wannabe scene gal. In junior high, I loved a gothic pop singer from Estonia. Her name is Curly, and my two best friends and we made the worst YouTube videos. We remade the angsty Sweeney Todd. We would remake those music videos. That's how angsty we were. So of course it makes sense that I'm now an adult and of course it makes sense that I'm doing a witch podcast. Yeah, I've loved this stuff my entire life. I've always loved the spooky. I've always loved the macabre. I'm a Scorpio, so I do love all of that. So, I actually ended up getting a journalism degree because I was so freaking passionate about storytelling. And I kind of realized in hindsight that, I think that was fueled by my pending terminal diagnosis. I made lots of documentaries in high school, and I had a lot of fun and did a lot of things when I was at Utah State getting my broadcast journalism degree. I've worked with Utah Public Radio and Aggie Radio, and I've, helped out with The Statesman, and I eventually ended up working at KSL News Radio, which is a Utah news radio station. And so it was kind of a dream come true because I ended up I ended up being the producer of the JMac News Show. So essentially, because my Jay was cool and he was like, yeah, you can come on the show. So I got to be on the show every single day. And I got to talk about people's stories. And so it was honestly a dream come true. But I don't know. I think everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Just kidding, that's the wrong show. No, I was actually diagnosed at the age of 23, and it's called Huntington's disease. I have told thousands of people's stories over my life, and now it's finally time to tell my own, especially with my shortened time clock. I honestly couldn't be more excited, and I think 2024 is the perfect year to start this platform. It has been a freaking revolutionary time for all of us. And I have, I've heard so many freaking incredible stories. I've grown from hearing people share stories, and we connect. And my goal for this platform is that we can help each other heal. Hopefully we can pass on wisdom to each other and empower each other along the way. So we're not going to be spending a ton of time on this episode talking about my terminal brain disorder. which is Huntington's disease. There are tons of other, videos you can watch about Huntington's disease. This podcast isn't actually about Huntington's disease, but it's actually the reason this channel exists. So essentially, this is the reason Huntington's disease is the reason who I am today. I wish everybody had a terminal brain disorder because it changes your life for the better. So here is the TLDR of Huntington's disease. I had a 50-50 shot of getting it. And I, got it from my beautiful, incredible, smart, sassy, fashionable mom. Her name was Tanya, and she passed away when she was 43. And she got Huntington's disease from her dad. Anyway, my mom was a warrior. She was so positive and she was so fun and she loved her girls, me and my little sister. She loved us more than anything, and she loved her dog, and she loved going to church, and she loved her Diet Coke, damn it. So, but it was hard, like I said, I lost my mom when I was 14, and my little sister was almost 12, so that sucks. And so the poopy thing about Huntington's disease is it is a mix of Parkinson's disease, ALS, Alzheimer's, and essentially, you're losing your ability to talk and walk, but you're also showing signs of mood swings and that sort of thing. So being faced with a terminal brain disorder honestly changed my life for the better. I wish everybody could have a terminal diagnosis. It makes you savor life like, eating freaking Belgian chocolate and savoring that in your mouth. And you just wish you could hold on to that for eternity. So after I was diagnosed with my terminal brain disorder, I lost weight. I dyed my hair red, which is so freaking cute. I started biking and I started running. I started going to art classes. And now I'm an artist. So I also started going to some, I started attending spiritual classes within the spiritual community, mostly run by my godmother, who's freaking incredible. She was actually my mom's caretaker for lots of years. So she is part of our lives. Anyway, I also, after being diagnosed with the terminal brain disorder, ended up getting involved with the Huntington's disease community, which was the best decision I've ever made. It was incredible. The Huntington's disease community here in Utah, they are fierce, they are incredible, they are strong. I started becoming involved in the nonprofit, raising awareness and funds for Huntington's disease. So I helped get 1,000 people to attend this nonprofit fundraiser, and then the nonprofit was like, oh look, she overachieves, let's give her duties. So they made me the chapter head for 3 years. So children, if you're listening to this, never overachieve or they will give you more duties. Anyway, I ran it's the Huntington's Disease Society of America. We'll just call it the HDSA. I ran the Utah chapter for 3 years, and going to Boston for the national convention was one of the most revolutionary times of my life. Huntington's disease is so freaking rare, like one of the most rare diseases. But, So, I didn't really know a ton of people with it. And it wasn't until I went to this national convention in freaking Boston that I was filled with a room of 1,200 other people who either knew what I was going through or also were going through the same thing. Like, it was freaking incredible. It was amazing. So I ended up meeting the CEO. We had a cute little national meeting, and the CEO of the Huntington's Disease Society of America, Louise Vetter, is freaking incredible. She hugged me and she said thank you for, all that you and your family does for the Utah community. That was like one of the craziest, oh wow, just such a cool moment in my life. And I was very grateful for it. I really felt like that was one of the most powerful things that I had done. And my team, my Utah team, we ended up raising over $120,000 during my 3 years as the chapter head. But not really because of my hard work, but because I had so many freaking amazing volunteers who kicked butt. So, going back to my diagnosis, I was diagnosed with Huntington's disease, and I actually went to UCSD in San Diego, La Jolla area. I wanted to be diagnosed there for two reasons. One, you can be diagnosed under a pseudonym, and two, they just had access to different clinical trials. And the reason for me getting tested so early was because I wanted to, be a participant in these clinical trials. So, so I was there getting my diagnosis. It was in June. I was there with my former spouse and my stepmom and my dad. And essentially, we met up in this conference room of this research center, and this incredible person, Chase Snell, I hope she still works for the UCSD. She's incredible. But essentially, she had my test results in it. And it wasn't just in a manila folder, and we opened the folder and they read it to us that I did have Huntington's disease, and I had a CAG of 52. If you know what that means, we might talk about it later. So anyway, I honestly was not surprised by the diagnosis, and I cried a little bit. I honestly just have always thought I had Huntington's disease. I haven't get out to sneeze. Dang, these grass, man. This is what I get for taking the dog on a walk next to the river with all the grass. Anyway, so after being diagnosed, my dad, because we were kind of there on a weekend vacation with my dad, my stepmom, and my former spouse. So the first thing that we did right after finding out my diagnosis was we went to the ocean and the shores of La Jolla. And so as a water-loving gal, I got in the ocean. And despite the shit or the terminal diagnosis that I had just received, I felt like the ocean was there just giving me a hug. I felt like she, held me in her arms. I felt connected to the ocean. I felt like she was going to be there to support me no matter what. And that, it was like I had come, I don't know, I felt connected to the ocean, and I felt healed by the ocean. And so that kind of ended up being kind of like the start of a ritual that I ended up kind of doing once a month when I would go to San Diego, because I ended up being a participant in the Signal trial. So guess what? The Signal trial, the Signal trial is a clinical trial that I participated in. It's a monoclonal antibody. I can link it in the description if you want. But essentially I had to go to San Diego once a month for 18 months, and had to do a whole bunch of different, get MRIs and get a CAT scan and stuff. So I was diagnosed, and then I had done some tests to see if I had the right, severity to participate in the clinical trial. And so I didn't know if I was getting into the trial or not. And it was election day, and I was still working at KSL News Radio. And for any journalist or any news-loving people out there, an election day is essentially journalism Christmas. It's the best night. You stay up all night looking at the reports. Everybody has a beat that they're on, and it is vibrant, and there's freaking free pizza everywhere, you know, like it is a night for journalists. So that night, Jay, the guy who produced his show, me and Jay McFarland, we were sent, our assignment was to go cover Mitt Romney here in Utah. He was being elected as senator, and we all knew he was going to win. Like, I think he won, I don't know, like by a lot. He won by a lot. But that night, I was there covering the election night. And that was the night I got a call from the research team. And they said, girl, you, like, they're like, oh, I was like, they're like, oh, hey, what's going on? It sounds kind of loud in the background. Because they're like, you know, the governor's in the background walking around and their TVs. And, like, it's so loud in that campaign office. And I said, oh yeah, sorry, I'm just here, you know, covering Mitt Romney being elected as senator, most likely tonight. And then the research assistant, I'm going to have to sneeze again. Dang it. The research assistant, basically what she said to me was that I did get in the clinical trial. And so that, like, I think I cried tears of joy. And not because Mitt Romney won. No, but just because it was so cool, like, just so cool. I was so excited to, you know, participate. So I did. I went to the ocean once a month, and I got in the ocean. I felt connected to the ocean. I felt like part of nature. I don't know. I've always felt alive near the ocean, especially, and so that's kind of the part of witchcraft that I identify with, right? This connection to nature. This, like, I was a person who have hugged more trees and is, like, probably legal. I have, you know, loved Hermione Granger growing up. I have always had crazy weird things happen, like with animals, you know, or just weird, crazy witch things. And so that's kind of where I believe my witchcraft lies. It is in the power of nature, right? So anytime, like, if we're feeling stressed out, like, one of the number one things to do is to go on a hike, and you suddenly feel so much better. Like, everybody has felt that. So yeah, nature is freaking powerful. So I also, another reason I knew I was a witch, because I've always thought life was sacred. I have always been I was, like, vegetarian on and off for lots of years, and so I believe life is sacred. And I, you know, anyway, so let's talk a little bit about deity work in witchcraft. So one thing in witchcraft, common thing, is that witches often will work with a deity or multiple deities. It's kind of like in Mormonism, or it's kind of like in Christianity, where, like, you are praying to Jesus Christ, essentially, or whomever is receiving those messages, whether that's Heavenly Father or the Holy Ghost or whatever you believe in that. But essentially, working with a deity is essentially like, who am I praying to get the blessings that I need, or that I want, or that I'm manifesting, or that I'm working with. So when I was a baby witch, that's the term for people starting out their spiritual journey, I didn't really have a deity. I didn't really think I was going to do deity work. I was kind of a deity slut. You know, if I needed something from Lilith, I'd call upon her. Or, but I was reading a book about Bridget. And now Bridget is amazing. She is the patron saint of hearth and home. She is so cool. And she's a Celtic deity. So I'm reading this book about Bridget, and all of a sudden, I read this name of a deity, another Celtic deity, and it's the Morrigan. And, like, my jaw fell to the floor. I was like, wait, sorry. There's a deity with my own name? Morrigan, me, Morgan Pratt, my name. And so I was like, holy shit, that's fucking my deity. So then I, like, immediately, you know, listened to, like, a whole bunch of Audible and, you know, about the Morrigan. And what I discovered freaking changed my life. The Morrigan is a Celtic deity. It's a Celtic deity. It's a trio. I have my statues in the background, my Morrigan statues. The Morrigan statues. So the Morrigan, the reason it's is because there are 3 of them. It is kind of like maiden, and crone. And the crazy thing about the Morgan is the Morgan has connections to water and to rivers. They have connections to kelpies. Guess what my dog was that passed away in February? She was an Australian kelpie. The Morgan is a badass with red hair, supposedly, because she's Celtic. That's her lineage. And so I just couldn't believe it. And so I ended up I've always had so many spiritual moments in nature. I've always loved going to girls' camp. So, one cool thing about the Morgan is that she, can either be depicted as a crow or a raven, or she can be depicted as having crows or ravens. So I've always been a spooky gal. That I've always loved Edgar Allan Poe. So of course I love ravens, and crows are one of the freaking smartest things ever. So yeah, this spooky gal has always freaking loved ravens and crows. And so I was like, of course, why do I have all these similarities with the Morgan? So yeah, the spooky wookie gal in me just can't deny all the similarities that I have with the Morgan. And now that I am, growing and learning more about witchcraft, the Morgan has essentially tasked me with helping all of us grow. And so essentially, the Morgan has been in my corner. She has been helping me navigate a crazy sales job. She has, helped me fight Huntington's disease. So many people, so many witches work with the Morgan, people with chronic illnesses, because she is a warrior. And sometimes you need a warrior just helping you get out of bed sometimes. You know what I mean? And that's why the Morgan is freaking amazing. She is the warrior of death, or she is the deity of death and dying. And honestly, the witchier I become, the more connections I have with people who've passed away. I feel my grandma, obviously my mom, obviously, I feel her all the time. My grandpa, my great grandma, I feel like there's an entire army of people on the other side just cheering all of us on. And it's freaking amazing. I feel connected to the dead. I don't know. I've always liked working in assisted living centers and stuff. It just makes more sense. When I adopted a dog, they're like, when I went to go foster a dog, they're like, do you want the puppy or the dying one? And I said, I'll take the dying one. So yeah, I just couldn't believe all the similarities that I had with the Morgan. And the Morgan has tasked me to create this platform and to dedicating myself to empowering those to fight the battles in their own lives. And y'all know, I can't fuck up, because she will be sending ravens and crows to, you don't fuck with the Morgan, okay? She will fuck you up. So, and it's not, working with the Morgan has not honestly been all destroying the patriarchy and cursing incels, but this last 2 years has been a completely transformational time for everybody. And I think I also have been on that transformational journey. I am admittedly a recovering people pleaser, and for my own safety, the Morgan is tasking me to make sure that I put myself first, come hell or high water. Get it? High. I don't know. There's a 420 joke there, I think. Anyway, a lot of people are facing, battles this year. And I, for the first time, have had to start putting myself first. I've realized that my needs come first. This winter was less worse than, the winter of 2022. I met a man who I honestly thought was my end game. And I don't really say that lightly. I had to put down my very, very sick dog that has been my soulmate for fucking 8 years, and she was barfing every day for freaking 9 months. My migraines had gone my migraines have recently gone from like every once in a while to being chronic, especially with the winter. I was sick for 3 months straight and nearly died of strep throat the week that I turned 30. I also had huge changes at work. We lost my boss. We got a new boss. They changed the commission structure, so I didn't get a commission check. And they have changed everything at work. So, and along all of that, the man who I thought was my end game broke up with me to work on his mental health, which is honestly the most commendable thing. And so with the terminal brain disorder, and I just don't know how much time I have left, so I'm exploring my other options. Anyway, this winter has been hard, and I did lose myself, and it was bleak, and I didn't know if I was going to get through it. I didn't know. It honestly was just a million calls to all my freaking incredible family and friends, and listening to empowerment talks or affirmations, and I lost myself, and it was dark, and it was bleak, and it was cold, and it didn't really make sense. I had lost everything in 2 years of my life. I had been free-falling for 2 years straight. And then recently, I finally found, the little silver lining. And now I am awake again, completely transformed and ready to fight for love and healing. I have found myself on this other side of this transformation, and I'm ready to fight, and I am ready to be in my villain era. So as Mumford & Sons says in The Cave, I will find strength in pain. I will find my ways. I'll know my name when it's called again. So come out of your cave walking on your hands. Sing the world hanging upside down. You can understand dependence when you know the maker's land. So you make your own siren's call and sing all you want. I will not hear what you have to say, because I need freedom now, and I need to know how to live my life as it's meant to be. And I will hold on hope, and I will not let you choke on the noose around your neck. And I will find strength in pain, and I will find and change my ways. I will know my name when it's called again. And my name is being called again. I am now a badass. My house is clean again. I am ready to fight. And I've realized that my roots were rotted from the beginning. And when I say that, I have been so surprised by the people that I've had to block lately. And I've realized that these people and these situations that I've been in is kind of the reason I've had poopy boyfriends, mostly. And I think, I kind of grew up in a weirdly strict place for my dad was Jack Mormon, and so that means we weren't as serious about the church. But I still feel like I did grow up in a strict, upbringing where my feelings were completely invalidated day in and day out. I was always taught, stop being so emotional. Stop being so emotional when I was having a panic attack. Stop being so emotional when your dog's dying. Stop being so emotional when you are on trek and you're on your period and you're freaking 14 and it is freezing outside and, you have to go freaking change your tampon in a freezing cold winter when you have cramps that make you nauseous. Oh no, we should definitely be less emotional. Yes, emotions are not allowed to take up space where I was raised. It's always hilarious when you're being screamed at to stop being so emotional. That's always like the funniest thing to me. It's hilarious. I can't believe in the inability to actually review their actions, impacting my little sister and I. So for some context, I've recently had to block my dad and some other people in my life because there is so much gaslighting and victim blaming of my little sister. And so my little sister, as I said, she's 2 years younger than me, and we both have Huntington's disease. And we, essentially, everybody's narrative out there about Maddie, my little sister, is that because of her Huntington's disease, that she is, people think that her Huntington's disease was a reason that her first marriage didn't work out. Well, guess what, people? Her first husband was a piece of shit, toxic, abusive fucker. Like, this guy, I hated him from day one, and he knew it, right? He knew I knew how toxic he was. One thing about abuse is you can be financially abused. If you don't know what the finances are in your life, that is financial abuse. This man, husband number one for Maddie, was just as toxic as her last husband was. But the reason people think that husband number one, that Maddie screwed up the relationship because of her Huntington's disease, which, by the way, she got married at 19, just like me, and was young. She was 25. That's not even with our CAG of 52, that does not mean that we are that sick. The reason she was crying, the reason she was angry was because she was in a manipulative, toxic, abusive relationship. Maddie's husband number one was as bad as my boyfriend 2 boyfriends ago. He was lying and, gross and just just a gross man and would get angry. He would blame everything on my Huntington's disease, and he would not take accountability for his own actions. And so part of Huntington's disease is there's, I mentioned earlier, there are emotional highs and lows. And so people oftentimes blame Huntington's disease. They say, oh, you are crying a lot, so this is obviously Huntington's disease, and I'm not going to have to stand up for my abuse and the way that I am treating this person. And when people are going through abuse, statistically speaking, they are going to cry. They're going to process things. They're going to have emotional outbursts. Those are all things that are Huntington's disease symptoms. But those are also things that are aspects of being a survivor of abuse. The only reason my family believes my sister that this recent toxic person, her recent husband number 2, the only reason they're on her side with this one is because her most recent husband was kind of gross, he didn't have custody of his kids, and he was kind of not as he wasn't as good about hiding his narcissism as Maddie's husband number 1 did. And so it's crazy to me that's called gaslighting, because what you're doing is you are creating a narrative that Maddie is sick and that she can't handle herself. And you are making her feel small, and you are making her feel weak, the same way that I have felt my entire life. So where did all this drama come from? Well, I had the audacity to ask for a family therapist. For me, my dad, my stepmom, and my sister. And I honestly didn't think that was going to be too much to ask for, especially given our Huntington's disease. And so who would have known that asking for mental health resources in our family is the reason that this family is being torn apart? Maddie and I, people have gaslit and victim blamed Maddie and I long enough. And we are sick of it. Yes, we can have Huntington's disease. We can have outbursts. We can have emotions. But there can also be toxic people in our lives that need to be cut out for our own safety and survival and mental health and putting yourself first. I really honestly, I beg, if somebody's out there watching and this story resonates with victim blaming and gaslighting, you are not alone. It happens all the time. You are a freaking warrior. You are a survivor. You are, in your villain era. I also went from toxic boyfriend to toxic boyfriend, and I don't know, it's stupid. And I think that's because I've always been taught that my emotions come last and that I can't take up space. That I, am not allowed to voice my opinions, that I cannot cry. I've always felt that I am not validated. So in witchcraft, there is this thing called ancestry work. And I didn't ask for ancestry work. Ancestry work found me, damn it! And what I mean by that is ancestry work is like the witchy crazy is healing family curses. But really, if you think about it, it's like healing intergenerational trauma, right? Being able to do things like intergenerational trauma for me or ancestry work for me is now showing up in the sense that I need to be an advocate for my sister. I am being called, to help stand up for other people, to heal intergenerational trauma. You have to work on your own trauma first before you dump your trauma onto us, onto other people. That's the last thing you want to do. It should not be up to Maddie and I to have to heal all this trauma that my dad has gone through. My dad, I feel like he blames us for everything. I feel like we were a burden on his entire existence. And this is why I want a therapist, family therapist, because honestly, my dad always makes money contingent. And he is, just recently, always threatening to take away things monetarily. If you're not obeying, you're not getting money from him. And I talked to my little sister, Maddie, and she says that is one of the reasons that she has not been herself these last couple years. Because she is scared of losing the monetary support of my dad. My sister doesn't work, and that's fine. You don't fucking have to work. But it's gross. She should be able to do whatever she wants and still be loved and still get money from our parents, right? So I'm also being compelled by the Morrigan to talk about eugenics. So, what is eugenics? Eugenics is a scientifically, this is the quote. Eugenics is a scientifically erroneous and immoral theory of racial improvement through planned breeding. TLDR, what does that mean? That means, eugenics is the way that, the Nazis were. They were like, we only want, blue-eyed children. So we're going to kill everybody else who is not blue-eyed. And that is now what's happening within the Huntington's disease community, and specifically in my family. And I just can't stand for it anymore. Eugenics is, to me, the way that my dad has been approaching eugenics is the same way that, the Autism Speaks like they fucked up, and they've been trying to eradicate people on the autism spectrum for just existing. Even though people on the spectrum are literally like hard workers, there's some of like, it's just gross that you're trying to sterilize all the special needs kids. That's just gross, and I don't like that. When Maddie one time asked to move in with my parents, one of their plans, they had 9 things that they said to her that they would allow her in to their home. And do you know what one of them was? That she would have to get herself fixed in order to move in with her parents. And with my parents, and I said, like, that's creepy to me. We get a call every single month from our stepmom or our dad, like, hey, are you guys on birth control? Because heaven forbid you pass along the disease and make me have to be a grandpa at the age of 60. What's the reasoning in there? I have always believed in it's okay to find a cure for Huntington's disease. But I've also learned to believe in it's okay to have an incredible community. It's like the idea from, oh my gosh, what is that book? Far from the Tree by Andrew Solomon. It is okay to have communities. It's okay to have, and my Huntington's disease community is the most empowering, my favorite community of people to interact with, And that's because I get to meet freaking amazing people just like me. We should not have to be eradicated just for existing. And if it's somebody's choice to reproduce and have a kid, that's their own prerogative. I was taught by a very liberal dad that, women have the rights to their own bodies. And it's insane to me that he then wants to get us special needs people fixed because it doesn't fit his agenda of what he wants to do next with this next chapter in life. I get it. I have honestly been toxic myself. And I mentioned I was married at 19, and the reviews were, I was the abusive and toxic person in that relationship. I had learned from the best people with narcissistic tendencies. And so after we broke up, I'm a weirdo who likes to stay friends with her exes. And because I'm a puppy dog and just want to be friends with everybody. But I had to learn boundaries with my former spouse because I was the toxic one and they needed a chance to heal from their toxicity for their sake and for my sake, because it made me realize if I want to be friends with this person again, I need to work on myself. And it took 5 years. And now, I know, it's weird emotions, whatever. How dare we have emotions? I had to work on myself. I had to get the toxicity out of me because I could not imagine hurting the next person that I met or fell in love with. And it's okay. A lot of us, that's what this is addressing the toxicity in your own life so you can heal for yourself. All of you are strong freaking warriors. I am calling you guys, the Morrigan is calling you guys to reflect on your own actions and see, is there any toxicity that I can cut out of my life? You guys are warriors. You guys are strong. You guys are fierce. I am so proud of you. I will probably be doing another video by the end of the month. I will be doing a mermaid, because I'm a mermaid. So we'll be talking more about just water witchcraft. And I'll probably be painting some mermaids. So don't forget, to drink your water and take your meds and take your vitamins and always take yourself on a mental health walk. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Oh, feel free. Oh my gosh. rate me, comment, share, subscribe. Love you guys. Bye.